In this video, we're going to see what is a break-even point and why is it important for a company. First, we're going to see the definition. Break-even point is the point from which the company starts getting profits. As we have already studied several economical results or several results, you already know that the profit of the company is incomes minus expenses. Why is a break-even point then giving additional information? Because break-even point, it's going to be calculated in physical units. So it's going to add information because it's not going to be calculated in euros, but in physical units. So it will tell us if the company sells one more unit, they will have a profit. If they sell one less unit, they will be losing money. First thing I'm going to show you is how to draw it. So the first thing that you need is placing sales on the one part and euros on the other one. And now we're going to start representing different kind of costs and incomes and so on. So the first thing we're going to place here are fixed costs. Is this line that you can see, and these are the costs that the company will have to pay and will have to face if they do anything or if they do not do anything. So if the company is producing, they have to pay this fixed cost. If the company is not producing and selling anything, they also have to pay this fixed cost. For example, if the building is not theirs and they have to pay a rent for the building, that will be a fixed cost. Okay? The second thing we're going to represent here are sales incomes. And as you can see, if the company sells zero, they get zero money. And as you can see, there's a slope in the line. This means it's not like the fixed cost, okay? There's an inclination in the line. And this inclination is what we're going to call slope, okay? We calculate incomes as sales incomes, total incomes for the company that come from sales. So it's going to be the number of units sold multiplied by the selling price. It's not a parallel because the more you sell, the more the income you get. Now we're coming with total cost. As you can see, total cost starts in the same point as fixed cost because there are several costs, as we have already seen, that the company has to pay no matter what they do. If they do anything, they do nothing, okay? They have to pay for this cost. But there's a different tilting, okay? There's a slope. The slope of the line depends on the variable cost. What is a variable cost? Variable costs are those that depend on production. This means they change with the production. The more you produce, the more you have this cost. For example, raw material. The place where the total cost and incomes cross, that is the break-even point. That's the point you're looking for. Let's move on and see how to calculate it. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the variables that are part of the formula. So variables are going to be fixed cost, those that do not change with the production volume. You produce more or less, but those costs remain the same. We're also going to include, or we're going to need, the variable cost, those that change depending on the production value. And the last variable is going to be the selling price. So how do we combine these variables into a formula to calculate break-even point? This is a way to do it. So the amount of units, Q, number of units that the company has to produce and sell to get profit zero is going to be calculated like fixed cost divided by the selling price minus the variable unitary cost. And this is the formula you need for the exercises. We're going to see how we get here. How do we get the formula? So we're going to do total incomes equal to total cost. Why are we talking about cost if we said the break-even point was related to the profit zero, and when we calculate profit, which is the economic result, we said it was going to be incomes minus expenses. We're using cost instead of expenses because this way we're including two additional costs, and we're going to have a more accurate information. What are those costs that are not expenses? Remember, depreciation over the law and corporate capital cost. So this way we're going to have an information more complete. We're going to have a better picture of the company. So profit zero means that incomes equals cost. What are total incomes for a company? Total incomes are the number of units sold multiplied by the selling price. And total cost is going to be adding fixed cost plus variable cost. Let's rewrite this using letters to shorten it and to be able to operate it, okay? So the number of units sold, it's going to be Q. Selling price is going to be P. Fixed cost is going to be FC. And then we have the variable cost. And we say the variable cost depend on the number of units produced. So we're going to multiply Q by the variable unitary cost. Variable unitary cost. Once we have this, notice you have Q on the one side and Q on the other side. So what we're going to do is that we're going to consider Q what we need to get, the information we need to get. So we're going to treat this as if it were a mathematical problem, okay? So we take variables with Q, or those parts with Q. This one is on the one side adding, so we place it on the other side subtracting. Okay, now we're going to get a common information. Common information would be Q. So we have Q multiplied by P and Q multiplied by variable unitary cost. So we do it like this, and that equals to the fixed cost. And now what is here multiplying goes to the other side, dividing. Okay, as you can see, it's on the left, goes to the right, dividing. So Q is going to be the number of units that the company has not only to produce, but also to sell to reach a profit zero. Produce and sell, okay? And on the other side, we're going to have the selling price minus the variable unitary cost. And this is what we're going to call the contribution margin. And this is what each unit sold helps to cover this fixed cost that we have on top. Okay, so every unit that the company sells has to help to cover not only total variable cost for that unit, but also part of the fixed cost. We're going to learn now another concept that is related to the break-even point, and this is security margin. Security margin tells us how much can the company reduce sales without losing money. So there are two main reasons that can cause this sales reduction. It could be reducing the number of units sold or reducing the selling price. Why will be the company reducing the number of units sold? Well, this is usually not a voluntary thing. This happens. There's a crisis in the market. The consumer has changed habits or interest or whatever, so they are selling less. It's just a reality that happens to the company and they have to face it. They are selling less units. The other option would be reducing the selling price. Why? Because there are many competitors, and if they reduce the selling price, maybe they can increase the number of units sold. Maybe because of the product life cycle. Maybe because it's a very old product and it's important to reduce the price in order to give some room to other products that are newer. Think, for example, about a mobile phone. You have a mobile phone. At the very beginning, it's very expensive. But as the time passes by, you have to reduce the selling price because they are newer mobile phones and they have more apps and they have more things and they can do more things. So the one you were selling at the very beginning cannot be as expensive because nobody is going to buy it. In any case, in any of these two situations, what the company wants to know is how much can sales be reduced before they start losing money. So it's time to see how can we calculate this security margin. Formula, it's super easy. Security margin equals to 1 minus the break-even point divided by the number of units sold. Remember, number of units sold, because we want to know how much can we reduce sales without losing money. How will we draw this, or how can we see this in a graph? So as you can see on your right, you have incomes and you have total cost. The place where they cross, that is the break-even point. But the company always thinks they are going to sell more than the break-even point. Their sales are going to be over the break-even point. So they have these estimated sales. The difference between the estimated sales and the break-even point, that's the security margin. Maybe it's not super clear right now for you, but as soon as you do the exercises and you have numbers, you can place numbers here, you will see it clearly. There's also another thing you should know about the production in the company. What happens if the company wants to produce more? Well, we need to talk about the capacity. How much can the company produce? Up to what point the company is able to increase the production? So here we have two different concepts. One is installed capacity, the other one is use capacity. Installed capacity is the amount of units that the company can produce as a maximum in their better achievement, in best conditions possible, okay? So this means all the equipment and machines, the people, they are all working in the most efficient possible way. And on the other side, we have use capacity, and that's the number of units that the company is really producing. Why there's this difference? Why there's an installed capacity and a use capacity? Why the company is not producing 100% what they can do? Why they are not doing the maximum they can do? Well, there are several reasons for this. Most of the times, the answer is that the market does not demand so many units. So the company could be producing them, but they were going to the stock, to the warehouse. And this is not interesting for them because remember, the warehouse is always a focus of problems for the company. Okay, so why do they have a little bit more? They want to have some more. Well, in case the customers, in case the market is interested in buying more, they can produce it because they have installed capacity, okay? Although they are not using it. Other times, in other occasions, the reasons because of which there's a difference between the installed capacity and use capacity are related to technical issues. When you buy something, in the user manual, they tell you what is the best achievement you can get from that thing. But that always happens under laboratory conditions. So those are conditions you cannot replicate in your company, you cannot replicate at home. The example I usually give you, it's a printer. You have a printer and in the user manual, it says, this printer can print up to 25 pages per second. And then you plug in and then you install it and you push the button on and you start printing and you don't get 25 pages per second because you're not printing under those laboratory conditions. That's why there's a difference between the use capacity and install capacity. And these are two main reasons. With this concept, you have almost everything you need to know about break-even point. And certainly you have almost all the formulas you're going to need for the exercises. There's just one more thing I want to show you. What if you need to calculate a break-even point for a certain profit? What if they tell you, instead of calculate the break-even point, just as it is, so you need the number of units, so your profit is 0, they tell you, what if we need to know how many units we have to produce and sell to have a profit of 1 million euros or 10,000 euros? Well, in this case, you have to consider that profit as a fixed cost. So as you can see in the formula, I've placed it here on top. This will be the extra profit the company wants to get, okay? So you will consider it as a fixed cost and you will divide fixed cost plus that benefit you want to get between the selling price minus the variable unitary cost as usual. And with this, we're completely done and you're ready to get the best result in the exam. Good luck, and I hope this video helps.